the United States has made of itself internationally through its popular culture, we have come to be seen as a place of unbelief. An achievement that would have startled our founding fathers. Nonetheless, that's the source of much of this repugnance. Well, the great Jesuit from Egypt, Father Samir Khalil Samir, who is one of the Pope's principal advisors on Islam, who taught both the Bible and the Quran at Saint Joseph in Beirut, said, of course, respect, yes, respect, but also the truth. We do not neglect the truth out of respect. So I have some hard truths to go over with you this evening regarding Islam, and I find that the quickest way... How many of you, for instance, have read the Quran? Holy smokes, that's impressive. Not all of it. Well, it is a very, very difficult book, as I'm sure you know, particularly for someone from a Western orientation, because it's not a narrative, it doesn't tell a story. And as you may know, the principle of organization in the Quran, in its 114 surahs or chapters, is simply the longest to the shortest. That is, it's not a story. It contains stories, but it itself is not a narrative. Very, very tough book. So what I thought I would do tonight is go over some of the basics of Islam very quickly, because I'm not sure how familiar you are with it. I think that the way to do this is to compare directly Quranic and Christian and Judaic revelation. Because in the short time we have together, that will bring out what the essential differences are in the terms of this revelation. So I want to show you tonight how Islam understands itself, and then also how it understands us as Christians. And next week, what I would like to do is move on from that into this huge drama of the Hellenization of Islam, its de-Hellenization, and then the consequences of that today that have left us with the extraordinary events of the past 10 years. I'll never forget Osama bin Laden's video released after 9/11 when he quoted his spiritual mentor, Abdullah Azzam, as saying, terrorism is an obligation in Allah's religion. And I remember reading that and thinking, I better study Muslim theology. What kind of God could that be who would require terrorism as part of his religion? Okay, well, let's get on to some of these basics. Do you know the 5 pillars of Islam? What does Islam mean? Submission. Okay, you know that. But what is the goal of Islam? What is the purpose of the submission? To what, sir?
I would say it's to get the world to submit to the one true God.
Yeah, no, you have to submit to, in order to achieve a goal. What is the ultimate goal of Islam? Yes, ma'am. To bring the whole planet into subjection. You're getting warmer, but no one's hit it yet. Sir?
Happiness. God.
No. No. All right, yes, ma'am. To do God's will, that's pretty good, but that's contained within submission. If you submit, what do you achieve? How many of you have you ever heard the phrase when you greet a Muslim or they greet each other, Assalamu alaikum? Alaikum salam? Salam. Salam is the goal of Islam. Peace. That is the thing at which it aims. But how do you achieve this peace? You do so by bringing everything in subjection to Allah. Correct? Now, how do you do that? What are the means at your disposal to bring all things into submission to Allah so that you achieve salam? Force? Okay, you do have this. You have jihad, and you also have dawah. Like Christianity, Islam has the obligation to proselytize. Every Muslim has this obligation. I remember when I was in Kuwait, I was on the commercial side of the airport in the manager's office, and he immediately does 2 things. He offers me chai, tea, and he hands me a Quran. That's dawah. They have the obligation to persuade. Every Muslim does, just as we as Christians have an obligation to evangelize. But what if it doesn't work? Then you always have recourse to jihad, which is, jihad, as you know, means struggle in the path of God. Overwhelmingly, it means war. I mean, in the history of Islam and the employment of this term, that's what it means. Now, there is a just war teaching within Islam, which you may or may not be aware of. When can someone go on jihad? This is very detailed in Islamic jurisprudence. Yes, sir?
When there's a reasonable likelihood of success.
Ah, very good. That's right out of just war teaching in the Catholic Church as well. You have to be prudent about it. You have to have a chance of success. But what's the casus belli? Let me tell you. If you offer someone Islam 3 times, and 3 times they refuse, that is a casus belli. They then are the aggressor by presenting an obstacle to the spread of Islam. And the caliph is then justified in declaring a jihad. However, you should know that Muslims do not use the word war. They reserve the word war for infidels against whom they're fighting. The word in Arabic that they use for jihad is futuwat, which means opening. So in their understanding of themselves, what we would see as an aggressive jihad is the opening of the world to Allah. Now, Muslims also see themselves in the way in which they see Allah, and that is, Allah is most especially one God. The unity of God, monotheism, a kind of radical monotheism, typifies Islam. And of course, it arose in a wildly polytheistic pagan society of the Arabian Peninsula. In the Kaaba, at Muhammad's time, there were 360 gods arranged there. So monotheism was something new for the Arabian Peninsula, and it is a form of radical monotheism, as I will explain. But so this one God has following him one people, one. And the people of Allah are called the Ummah. There is no distinction amongst Muslims, nationality, or in any other way. All Muslims are one. They are the Ummah. Now, if you have this one God, you have this one people, what sort of political organization do you think would be natural to it? A caliphate. My handwriting's so bad, this is pointless, isn't it?
No.
You can then? Okay, so there's one God, there's one people, and there's one caliph who is the vice-regent of Allah. He is the shadow of Allah on earth. He doesn't derive any of his powers from his subjects or his ummah. It's all from Allah. However, the caliph is restrained in what he can do. He can't just do anything, because the purpose of the caliphate in the ummah is the salvation of its members. So he is constrained by what Muslims are told in their revelation, and as that manifests itself in Sharia, their law. Now, let's just quickly go over these 5 pillars. There's the Shahada. Do you know what the Shahada is? That's what makes you a Muslim. It's the proclamation which you say in Arabic, there is no God but God and Muhammad is his prophet. If you say that in front of another Muslim, you're in. It's very easy to get in. It's very hard to get out. My son just finished the autobiography of this extraordinarily brave SEAL whose entire team was killed in Afghanistan. He survived, and he was picked up by a Pashtun tribe. And out of Pashtunwali, which is their tribal code of hospitality, they were protecting him against the Taliban, which knew of his